Hey guys, welcome to this lesson, and I'm going to be showing you through that Stevie Ray Vaughan lick, and it is the quintessential ultimate Stevie Ray Vaughan lick because no matter who pulls this out at what time and what track, you suddenly hear Stevie Ray Vaughan. It's just so unique to him. And not only am I going to be showing you how to play the notes, physically how to actually play through the lick, I'm also going to be showing you why this lick works. It's got a couple of notes where you might not expect some notes to be turning up in a couple of licks, and we're going to be therefore talking through the theory of that, and then therefore you're going to understand why this is such a unique lick and why it sounds so Stevie Ray Vaughan when you do play it. So we've got loads to go through. Now, just before we carry on, don't forget that you can head on over to the website via the link below and you'll find the full backing track that you can download for free, as well as the actual tab that you need to kind of get these notes together. Now, as well as that, if you're really into Stevie Ray Vaughan, you love his style and you want to get every aspect of it learned, then you can head on over to the site. I'll put a link below as well, and there'll also be a link on the page where you can find the full Stevie Ray Vaughan course. And this player study is in depth. We cover his rhythm, his lead, his slow blues, his fast blues, his Texas style, everything you need to be able to play like Stevie Ray Vaughan. Okay, so let's start by talking about the theory behind this lick. Now, there's two key concepts that you need to understand. One is the major-minor crossover that you find in blues, and secondly is out notes and the usage of out notes. So we'll start with the first one, the major and minor crossover in blues. Now I'm going to use this E minor box up here, this E blues at the top to kind of demonstrate this. But essentially what it means is that over a 12-bar track, and certainly a Texas blues 12-bar, you can play both the major pentatonic and the minor pentatonic in that key. So we can not only use the E minor pentatonic, so here from that E on the 12th fret we've got box 1, haven't we? So we've got that box there that we can use as our E minor pentatonic, and all those notes are, you're going to find and you're typically using throughout this lick. But we're also going to be using the major pentatonic in that same position, okay? So box 2, so in an E major, if I was to play the E, kind of like a major bar chord there, it would be my box 2 pentatonic, like this. Now, if you're unsure of these shapes, then do head over to the website because I'll put them in an interactive fretboard diagram so you can clearly see the shapes that I'm playing, but it's just box 1 and box 2, but they're basically two different keys. In any other context outside of blues or blues rock or rock and roll, that kind of stuff, when you're dealing with a more typical key structure, this doesn't work so well, and I wouldn't kind of go too near this. But over anything that resembles blues, like a 1-4-5 progression or something like that using dominant chords, this works beautifully, okay? And what happens is, as you start to get more and more into this, at first you might start just the idea of this, well, I'll play a couple of licks in major. Okay, and then you might switch to a couple of licks in minor. And you kind of cross over like that. But as you see more players use this, and for example Stevie Ray Vaughan, you'll start to see that the crossovers are more subtle. You'll be playing a lick where there's notes from the major, there's notes from the minor, and they're just blending all into one. Essentially what you've got to play with is a scale that ends up looking something like this. You've got your E root, then you've got your major second, okay, or your second, which is in both scales. Then you've got your minor third you can use. Then you've got your major third. Then your fourth, your fifth. Then you've got your sixth, your flat 7, your root. All those notes, you can actually use and kind of blend as one scale. Again, check out the website because I'll put all those notes together in one giant scale. Now, it's maybe not a good idea to just literally play through it as one giant scale. Because you'll start it'll be hard to use, you'll just have a lot of chromatic notes basically. But that's the general gist of that idea, okay? So that's one thing to consider. Number one point is that we will be using notes from the major pentatonic and the minor pentatonic. Now, the second thing is the usage of out notes. Now, out notes don't tend to be used quite so much in typical blues, unless you're dealing with something like a blues note. So that's a typical out note, okay? And what an out note means is a note that's not typically part of the scale, but you use it anyway. And you use it selectively, and you use it to create some tension that you resolve back. For example, you know, the blues note is a notorious out note. So if you know the scale, okay, that there is a minor pentatonic scale with this flat 5 in it, okay? And we call it the blues note because it's like the quintessential, the typical out note that is used in blues a lot, okay? But it's never resolved to, it's never, you know, hung on for long. It is just for the purpose of creating tension. So you wouldn't play a lick like this and just hang around there for ages. You know, that's not the purpose of the out note in this context. The out note here is to create a little bit of extra tension, which is resolved, or for example, higher up. That note there, that out note, that same blues note, okay? You tend to go onto it, but very quickly come away from it again. And that concept applies to all music. You can use out notes wherever you want. It's just essentially a note that is not in the scale, which you go to, and then come back from quite quickly, okay, to create some tension. So in the context of this Stevie Ray Vaughan lick, we're actually going to be using a really severe out note, because we'll be using, there's the root note of E, and we'll be using F. So it's a semitone up from the root note. It definitely doesn't feature in the minor pentatonic, definitely doesn't feature in the major pentatonic. So it's just, we just call it an out note, which is going to create a lot of tension. But as long as we ever, you know, come back, I'm just going to put it in a different context to the current lick we're using. Or, okay, so you see I used it, but came away from it quite quickly, and always knew that my resolve was either my root here, or potentially other notes. It might be, you know, this note, which is a part of the minor pentatonic. Any note that's like a safety note, it might be the major third. Okay, whatever it is, okay? That's the point, and that's the theory behind out notes. Now, out notes are quite hard to then just suddenly put into your playing, so that's why you need good examples of out notes, which is what this lick is going to be. Okay, so there's the theory. Now let's get down to actually learning this lick note by note. Okay, so we're up in that, you know, E minor box. Now just bear in mind when Stevie Ray Vaughan tends to do this, one quick note is that you'll hear it in E flat because he tunes all of his strings down by a semitone. So even though it looks like he's here, he's actually sound-wise here. Okay, so down one semitone. That's why suddenly, as soon as you hear it down in E flat, it might even sound even more Stevie Ray Vaughan because that's actually where he's playing it in terms of sound. But for the purpose of our backing track and what we're doing here, we're going to just do it in E minor, you know, normal E minor. So the lick. So let's just do the first bit. Okay, this couldn't be a more quintessential bluesy type thing from the minor pentatonic. All we're doing is we're taking the 14th fret, so think of your box 1. We're going to bend that up. Now, I usually do this as a half bend, so up to the blues note. So a really good example of going up to an out note, but then we resolve quite quickly. So just a half bend. And then we're going to go down the 12th fret, so B string, E string. Okay? Then we're going to come back to the 15th fret on the B string and pull off to the 12th fret. So all together. And that's the start of our lick. Okay, and I would highly recommend just trying to use your first and your third finger, especially when you're up here. Okay, you'll see Stevie Ray Vaughan just use those two fingers all the time, not so much with the little finger. We don't really need to bring that in. Let's just use the first and third. Okay, then we're going to do this. Okay, so I'll just do that again slower. So, let's just go through this. In terms of notes and just frets first, we're doing the 14th fret on the high E string, back to the 12, and then hammering on and pulling off the 13. Like this. Okay, so we got... Then we're going to come back to the 12 on the B string, then back to the high E, and then the B string 12th fret. So this. Okay. Out of context, you know, it sounds really mad, doesn't it? Like I'm playing some crazy hybrid scale. Okay, but in context, you're going to see that that works really nicely. So let's just talk about, you know, where the theories are working within that. So this note here, this 14th fret, is bang out of our major pentatonic, box 2. Which is nice. So we're kind of starting to reference that major minor crossover. Obviously back to the root. And then there's that out note. Okay, so that hammer on and pull off from that F there is the quintessential reason why this lick sounds so Stevie Ray Vaughan. Okay, because I have never come across another player in any genre that does that in that format, you know? Especially in a blues way, you know, I've never heard it, and that's why when you do hear it, you instantly just are drawn to that Stevie Ray Vaughan sound. Okay, it's just so unique, and it's just the idea of hitting an out note that adds tension, and then coming back to a resolve of some kind. So in this case, the E. So we get major, out note, back to root, and then that kind of back to that minor pentatonic idea. So those two licks back to back. And then, okay, and then we're going to go like this. Oh, should be a slide down. Okay, so the last part, we're going to come back up to the high 15. Okay, so the 15th fret there, and then I'm going to go back to the 12th fret on the E string, hammer on the 14th fret, so that major, and back off to 12. Okay. Then I'm going to come back, again trying to use your third finger, to the 15th fret on the B string, and then just simply 12, 12, 12. And you can just flatten that finger there if you like, before sliding off. It's quite nice actually to get those two ringing together, and it's just, you know, the 12th fret on the B and the E string, and then sliding down. So that lick all together sounds like that. Okay, so again there we're kind of referencing the minor pentatonic with the major pentatonic and switching between those two. So let's just put those three together. Okay, so lick number 1, lick 2, lick 3. Okay, now a couple of other things to bear in mind as you go through those licks is that it's swung. Okay, so you've got this kind of triplet feel. Okay, which is a bounce, okay? It's a boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom kind of feel, okay? So that's something to bear in mind. And also the other thing is that when you do those hammer-ons, they're part of that bounce, okay? So it's not an even sound, you know, 1 and 2. It's got a bounce to it, another bounce to it. So have just a real listen to those hammer-ons as I go through them. You see how quickly I'm going on and off those hammer-ons, okay? Just to add to the feel of it, to make sure that we're not on those out notes for too long, and because it's got that swing, that kind of rhythmical swing to it, okay? So one more time, whole lick at pace, sounds like this. Okay, so that's it from me. Thank you so much, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the lesson. Remember to head on over to the website to find the backing track and the tab, as well as that full 24 lesson SRV player study, which I've put together that you can actually learn every aspect of his style. Right, I'll see you next time for another lesson.